Hi, Joe.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Just great. I mean, Sylvia and I just had half an hour together. I'm in Switzerland, and Sylvia is with Michelangelo. How cool is that?
And Costa Rica is now joining us in the phone call in the event.
Hey, Andy, how are you, sir? My friend Andy Whitworth in Costa Rica, Osa Conservation. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Paul.
I want to give you a big hug. Wish I could hug you now.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm great. I loved your presentation yesterday up the tree. Fantastic.
Oh, fabulous.
I tell you, I shall never forget the time we spent together at sea and in that forest right there.
Yeah, Paul, I'm just on the farm, Paul, on the way down to the lodge, and there's a troop of spider monkeys just going through the trees at the back.
Yeah,
can you see?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there he is. Oh, you are good, Andy.
Endangered spider monkey for you.
Oh, what a thank you, buddy. I'll tell you that, you joining us at sea, and it was a long-lasting pleasure and fun to be the one that could bring the Costa Rica ocean into your life, and you brought the jungle into my life. Thank you.
No, I think it was a good trade. A fair trade.
I'll let you get on with Joe now, Andy. I'll see you soon. Thank you, buddy.
Good to see you, Paul. Take care, pal.
See you, mate.
All right. See you soon, Paul.
See you, mate.
All right, Andy. Well, it's great to see you. It was a ton of fun joining before yesterday. I mean, you're in a little different environment now. Your feet are on the ground. That's good. Good to have you nice and stable. And we're going to do a little bit of a different kind of show and tell adventure today. So we're really excited to dive into a little bit of the botany with you. So you are we're going to meet Ruth soon, the botanic manager with Osa Conservation. And then we've got Andy, a wildlife conservationist, National Geographic Explorer, and the director of ecological restoration and biodiversity conservation with Osa Conservation. And Andy, I'm just going to let you take over. Take us around. What are we seeing? What are we up to?
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Joe. So this will be a really nice segue from yesterday when we were in the tree collecting the fruits. I'm going to be taking you down to meet the botanical team in the restoration work. And I'm walking through the farm. This is our farm where we produce all the food for the station, or as much food as we can. And there's spider monkeys just up in the trees here right at the side of me. These are endangered spider monkeys, and that's how rich with wildlife this place is. This is our farm, and it's got all these incredible species. These are beech almonds that I was just picking up on the ground, that the scarlet macaws come into the trees all through this farm, and they're feeding on these beech almonds. But where I really want to take you, and what I really want to show you, is kind of the process about what we do with the fruits from the trees that we're climbing. So what happens next? And that's what the team here is going to teach us about. We're going to find out what happens to the seeds and all the work that goes into restoration. Because it sounds really simple, right? Restoration, it's just, kind of planting some trees. But there's an incredible team working away behind it. So you'll see Lucy down here on the ground. She's filling bags full of soil, which is long, hard, heavy labor. Thanks, Lucy. And then we're going to join Ruth, who you've met before, Joe.
Yep.
And I'm going to join her at the seed preparation table. So hopefully you can see. Can you see Ruth there?
Hey, Ruth,
good.
How are you? Looking good.
Hi, how are you? I'm good. Hi, everybody.
So what we're doing is I'm joining Ruth now at the seed preparation table. So she's grabbing a handful of these seeds, and I think she's going to tell us a little bit about this tree, these seeds, and what she's doing with them right now.
So in the world, we have over 60,000 of tree species, and over 20,000% are at risk of extinction. So our focus, our nursery, is to propagate the seeds of these threatened species. So here I have the seeds of a tree locally known as Sangrillo colorado. That means blood color. That is referred to the blood color sap that the tree has.
So this tree is quite incredible. It's got amazing wings that allows it to fly through the forest from the tree once it falls off. And it's amazing, Joel, when the the name that Ruth was saying there, the sangrio, the blood color. If you cut this tree a little bit with a knife, it bleeds like almost like red blood coming out of the tree, and it's incredibly rare. This is only the only place in the world pretty much where you find this tree, right?
Yeah, the distribution is really small, so we only found in a small part of the Osa Peninsula in Panama. So this tree is critical endangered. Critically endangered. Yes.
Okay, so tell us what you're doing now. What's going on there?
So when we collect the seeds, we brought back all of them to the nursery. We need to process them before to take to the germination room. So in this case, I'm just taking out the wing part of the seeds. So I'm just using a scissor, just taking this part, and then it's made easy the germination process. You know?
Okay. And Joe, so one of the things I would say is a lot of these trees and these rare threatened species, we know very little about how to propagate them and how to germinate them. And that's part of what the team is doing here, is really trying to figure out what the best practices and the best techniques and methods are for reproducing some of these trees, especially the rare and threatened ones. So what happens next?
Okay, so let's go to the germination room and we show you how we germinate them.
Okay, so we're going to the germination house next. So this is, you know, the next step after the seeds are prepared. We go to the germination house. So we're going to join Marvin, who's the head of the germination house. Say hi, Marvin. Marvin's been working on the peninsula. He's lived on this peninsula his whole life. He was born here. He's one of the best experts I've ever met in terms of trees and botany and knowing which species. And so he's going to show us now what we do with those seeds. So I'm going to let you have a look at the germination beds here, hopefully. Marvin's going to show us what the next step is.
So here we have the germination beds. So as Andy mentioned, we don't know anything about how to germinate, so we are making trials. So this is one of our trial beds. So Marvin is just covering or putting the seeds on this substrate that has dirt and some sand, as you see here.
So this sandy substrate, Joe, it's really good. It's like a mix of some soil and some sand, and it helps to hold the humidity really well. And this germination house is very warm, and it's got like a system for spraying, just like any kind of like garden house. So it keeps all these seeds wet and moist, and hopefully will help to germinate them. So I think we've got some varrolas, right? We're going to look at, and we're ready now to take to the next step once they're germinated, right?
Yes.
So let's have a look here. So this is a good example on this side of a bunch of beautiful little varrola trees. So do you want to tell us about these varrola trees, Ruth, just quickly?
So they are locally known as, they are the wild nutmeg. They are the wild nutmeg species, and they're very, very important for wildlife, like the endangered monkeys. They love the fruits. So they're very important for reforestation programs in way we can attract them. So right now, Marvin is gonna to put these saplings on this bag. So,
okay, so the saplings are now ready. So he's got to very carefully take them out, and you can see they've developed that incredible root system. Show us the roots, Marvin, up at the camera here. So you can see those roots are growing really healthy and strong. Makes a little hole, and then now that's the next home for these germinated saplings. So you can see just how much work's going into this this project there, Joe. It's an incredible amount of time and love and care to get these seeds ready. And then we're going to pass these over to Alejandro.
Hey.
Alejandro's in charge of the outdoor nursery. So we're going to head over to the next stage once the trees are in the bags. So we've got our wheelbarrow full of little saplings. I'm going to follow Ruth over to the next stage. Okay, Ruth, so take us over there. And this is the outdoor nursery now for the seeds that have been in the germination house. And I asked the guys this morning, they've got over 11,000 trees here, Joe, to plant out this year, of over 30 different species. And a real mix. Tara's working hard here. She's got a weed and keep taking care of those saplings, pulling all the other things that are growing and stealing those nutrients out. And then down here, Ruth's going to show us some of the plants that are growing in these outdoor beds. And I think what we can see here actually is there's a couple of things I want to point out. So behind Ruth over there is a bed of just full green, lush saplings. And those kind of trees, these are pretty fast growing pioneers that are very easy to germinate, very easy to produce. And it's quite a common species. But the ones here in the front, if I can just show you, there's a lot of kind of empty bags. And then Ruth, if you can show us one of the successful ones. So this is one of the endangered trees, and it's much more difficult to propagate than some of those common species. So tell us about this tree, Ruth.
So the tree is called ajo because the flowers smell garlic.
If you're looking for the live events, you've had to move to Facebook Live. You can look up our channel if you search Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants on Facebook, or your other option is right on our website, globalbiofest.com. There's an icon right there with the video. Just click play or click watch now. You can join us on Facebook. We still have a lot of great events to come today.
Did we get cut off? Hey, Joe, are we still there? Hello?
Hey, Andy.
Are we still with you, Joe?
We are still loud and clear. Yep, I just had a message to check.
All right, no worries. Sorry. So Ruth was just telling us about this garlic tree, or the ajo tree.
Yeah, this tree is an endangered tree species. They are really big. They can get up to 40 meters. This is endangered and is the favorite food of many wildlife like the monkeys, but also the flowers are pollinated for bats. So here we have two different types of ajos. So this one is the ajo amarillo because the yellow flowers.
Okay, so there's two of these types of tree, and then there's another one here.
And this is the ajo negro. No, they are quite similar. So as Andy was mentioning here, it's really difficult to propagate them because we don't know anything. But that is our challenge. That's why every day we are in the field, just going out, trying to find these mother trees, collect the seeds, bring back them. You will see we are so happy when these little seedlings start coming out. Like they are like our babies. But that is no. We are here to work to save these threatened tree species.
Awesome. So, I mean, Joe, I just think these guys do an incredible job. And it's a little bit of a behind the scenes of how much work goes into trying to restore, to regenerate, to recreate a rainforest. It's an incredible amount of work. So, you know, I would always say the thing that we need to focus on the most in this world is protecting. Oh, I think we've.
We still got you coming in, Andy.
All right, sorry, my screen flicked off for a second. But I think more than anything, Joe, what we have to focus on is one of the things that Ruth mentioned is protecting these mother trees, these ancient trees that we still have, that can still produce these beautiful seeds. But what's amazing to me is that there's great hope that we can regrow forests, that we can propagate these incredible trees, and that there are people like this team here absolutely dedicated every single day to trying to regenerate rainforests and learn more about some of these rare threatened trees.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, thank you so much for that look behind the scenes. I mean, that is conservation work in action. I mean, a species of tree that rare, and trying to find a way to propagate the seeds, you know, grow them and then plant them back in the rainforest. You guys are doing incredible work. And I'm just looking behind you at that efficient team, just working away, getting stuff done. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, you know, it's that fine balance between reproducing the things that we can use as humans and that we can find useful to regrow, that we can use timber in the future, and also, like say, learning about some of these very rare endemic special trees, and that's really tricky. It's really difficult. And I think Ruth, you know, called them at one point, these are like our children. And I've seen the way that Marvin takes care of these saplings, and there's a lot of love goes into this.
No question at all. So I think now is a good time to take a quick pause and just remind everybody viewing today that all weekend long, the 65 plus speakers traveling around the world has all been about raising awareness about biodiversity, the challenges it faces, and of course, some good news conservation stories. And I think this definitely qualifies as a good news conservation story. And so it's free for everyone to join, but we are trying to raise funds for 6 organizations, of which Osa Conservation is one of them. So Andy, I'm happy to report that our goal was to raise a total of $10,000 to split between the organizations. We have exceeded that goal over the weekend, but we've pushed our goal higher because we'd like to see if we can make a few more smaller donations to a few of the organizations that we worked with to make this festival happen. So if you like the work that the Osa Conservation is doing, please consider going to our website, globalbiofest.com. You can find the donate button. It'll take you to PayPal, or there's a GoFundMe page, and help make sure that this work can keep happening. So really exciting, Andy, to surpass the goal early and now have an opportunity to try and raise it a little bit higher and raise some more money for some amazing conservation organizations.
That's fantastic, Joe. Congratulations, and thank you so much for pulling this weekend of events together. It's a great way that we can, you know, share this work that's going on in a little corner of the world, but it's so important. And thank you for helping bring this platform to life for us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking us out into the Osa Peninsula and showing us just, you know, from the tops of the trees to where they start, really nice and small. And actually, we left on a cliffhanger yesterday. You picked something out of a fruit out of the tree on your way down. Did you figure out what it was?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Ruth. So I brought the seeds down and gave them to Ruth and Marvin. So Ruth, come and tell us a little bit about that, the seed that I brought back yesterday.
The tree is called Simaruba cedron, and it's highly used for the local people as medicine. And the seeds are used to treat snake bites.
So I was really happy, Joe, because I play and fiddle around with snakes quite a bit. So I've now got a couple of seeds that I can make a potion in case I get bitten, and I can turn it into an anti-venom.
All right, so very serendipitous that you grabbed those on your way down.
Yeah, it's amazing, and every time we find, I find a seed or something, and I bring it back and show Marvin and Ruth, and they tell me what it is, and when you discover like the uses that indigenous groups and local people know about, it's incredible, and we cannot lose that.
That is such an amazing point, Andy, because we don't even know what kinds of cures and medicines and useful things can be found in the rainforest. We might be wiping things out before we have any idea of, what benefit can be from them. So biodiversity
Absolutely.
is just so crucial to our survival. We're so linked to all the life that's on our planet, and yet we're kind of wantonly just destroying it before we even know or understand it.
Yeah, Ruth and the team over the past 3 months have been doing these expeditions to very remote parts of the peninsula. So they have to take hammocks and just sleep out in the jungle for a week at a time. And they're doing long, hot surveys in the forest, all day. And they're just taking very simple food and just trawling through the rainforest, identifying different plants. And to most of us, it just looks like a wall of green. And these guys are trying to figure out trying to find the flowers and the fruits and how subtle differences between them. And you guys found a lot of potential new species to the peninsula, and some species that might be even completely unrecognized species, right?
Yeah, like the Osa is small, has higher diversity, but there are still more to discover. And the expeditions are like the great opportunity to find these plants. On not only new species for science, but also for the work that we are doing here, it allows us to localize the mother trees. So for example, for one of the species that I was showing you, so far we only found 4 mother trees. So, it's quite it's quite tough. We have to walk this long distance to be able to collect the seeds and bring back them here.
Mm-hmm. Ruth told me once that, you know, we fool around and I kind of say that animals are more important, and Ruth thinks that plants and trees are more important. But she said to me once that, well, you tell them, what you think about these ancient trees?
Like the ancient trees for me are like our grandparents, no? They have so much knowledge, so much wisdom, so much history that we don't know from our past generation. For long time, like people, we are just not listening them, we are ignoring them, and I think now is the time to take care of them, and that's why we are doing this work here. Doesn't matter where we are in the world, we all depend on the forest, and tree plants are part of that.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to argue with her, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it is a tough argument. I see 100% what Ruth is saying, and I'm not saying I don't agree with her, but then I think about some examples where plants need animals to disperse their seeds around the rainforest. So, I mean, you can argue back and forth, but I think I'm leaning a little towards the plants, but you got to love the animals too.
Yeah, chicken and egg, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ruth, I have a question for you. I'm wondering, what do you enjoy more, being down in the nursery working or up in the canopy, like 70 feet off the ground? What's more exciting for you?
Oh, wow. I think it's more exciting to be up on the canopy, be able to climb these ancient trees and collect the seeds, because they are the seed bank of the forest. They are the future of the trees.
All right, very cool. I had a feeling that might be your answer, Ruth. Awesome. So what do you think, Andy? Should we move around a little bit, check out a little bit more of what's
well, one of the things I do want to show you, which we should go and have a look, Ruth, if you come over with us, is I think a lot of the time, Joe, what are we going to do? How do we make our forests productive and useful to people, right? So in some cases, we might want to just regrow a forest, all right? But obviously, there's a lot of people on the planet, and we need to have resources and things that are important to people as well. So one of the nice little projects that we've got right next to our vivero is an agroforestry project that we've been working on. So it's about how we can have trees and forests at the same time as making them productive, where we can grow things that are important to people. So this is a project Ruth's been working on for the last 2 or 3 years. And I'm kind of going to try and show you. Can you see this here, Joe?
Yeah. Yep.
Any idea what you think this is?
I think maybe it's an orchid. It's hard to tell.
It is you're right. It is an orchid. And it's actually a vanilla bean.
Wow.
So vanilla that we all use around the world is a species of orchid. And these plants take about 4 or 5 years before they become productive, right, Ruth?
Yes.
And then what we can do is, underneath the shade of these trees and the forest, we can grow vanilla, which is a really high value product. It's one of the most expensive.
The most expensive after this.
The most expensive spices in the world. And we can grow it under shade. We can grow it within forests. And so this is a really neat little experiment. So I can show you, if Ruth just stands in the middle, these are the rows of all the vanilla plants that her and the team down here on the farm have been taking care of. And so we're thinking about how we make our forests of the future also productive and valuable to people as well. Are there any flowers, Ruth? Maybe you could show us a vanilla flower. So this is really cool, and it's like, again, taking things a step further and saying, how do we keep people to want to keep these? Look at the size of these beans. These are just enormous, big vanilla pods. And we're just having a search around for some flowers, but maybe they're all gone. Yeah, I think most of them have been pollinated. So these beans will take a while. They're going to keep growing. They'll get even bigger. And then it's a really tricky process to cure those beans, so that you get that really strong, beautiful vanilla flavor. So that's a really neat little project just at the side of the vivero where we produce all the trees. And you can see these plants are still quite young, Joe. So, you know, they're only maybe 4 years old. Oh, Ruth just found some flowers. Here we are. So if you can just see there.
So this is the flower of vanilla. And the interesting thing about vanilla is they only open for 1 day. So that day is the only chance that this flower can be pollinated. In the wild, we have these fruits and they're pollinated by bees. So the bees do the job of pollinating them. When it's really sunny like that, is the moments when the flower opens and all the bees start visiting the flower.
So yeah, so the other day we had the International Bee Day, and so thanks to bees, we have vanilla in our lives. And then Ruth's been studying a bunch of other animals that actually disperse the vanilla seeds around the forest. How many wild species are here in the peninsula, Ruth?
So in the Osa, we have about 5 different species of wild vanilla. And in the world, we have about 100 species. Even, you know, the Madagascar is one of the countries that produce more vanilla. Central America is all the native vanilla came from Central America. So that's the idea, to study more of these wild species as well and see how we can start producing them.
Mm-hmm. In the vivero, just where we were in the Germination House, Ruth also showed me some wild papayas that she'd collected from the forest. And, you know, I'd never seen wild papayas before, and collected the seeds, and now they're germinating in the house. And we'll have a little area with some of the wild papayas. And it's really important, Joe, to have some of these wild original varieties, because those original varieties have incredible resistance to pathogens and fungus, and that a lot of our domestic crops get attacked by. So it's an important genetic bank to have in safeguard should anything happen to our producers.
Absolutely, no question. And you know, Andy, this brings me back to a few weeks ago, we did an event live from the biological station. We had classrooms all across North America joining us, and you started off kind of in a kitchen eating area, and you had this amazing bounty of spread from you that all came from the rainforest. So it's just such an amazing spot, and to find the sustainable amount of food if it's managed properly. It was amazing to see what you had, the spread that you had for the kids to see.
More than ever right now, I think we're all thinking, right, just the way that lives have changed recently, is we're thinking more about food and how valuable it is and where it comes from. And I think you know, it's the same with nature. We're thinking about nature, we're thinking about wildlife and how important it is to us, and food in the same way. And those two things are intrinsically linked. The where we produce our food and how we produce our food relates to nature, and it relates to conservation and sustainability. So all of this is interconnected.